It's good to be here back again this evening as we can come together and worship God. I'm going to change a little bit from what was announced as far as what we're going to be looking at tonight or doing. There was a lesson that had been announced since, I think, last Monday. But during the week and latter part of the week, I decided to change it up just a little bit and maybe provide a little bit of a report of those that went on the Montana trip of a couple of weeks ago. I feel kind of like James D. Bales, and you might say some of you don't even know who he is, but he was one of the longtime Bible professors at Harding for many years, well known for being highly intelligent and all that. And that's not the part that I'm J.D. Bales, but one of the things that he would do when he was often teaching is he had a desk, at least in the classroom, and there was this desk, and he would come and he would sit in front of the desk and sit on the desk and just talk and teach. Particularly one class I remember was the book of Acts. Well, one day in class, I was sitting there, and I noticed, I'm looking there, and the man's got two different shoes on. Yeah, one's brown and one's brown and one's black, and they're completely different shoes. Well, that's how I feel like J.D. Bales. I don't have different shoes on, but when I grabbed this jacket tonight, it doesn't even. It's from two different suits. You wouldn't notice it, but I didn't notice it till I was talking to Wesley, and wait a minute, they're different. So anyway, that's how I feel like J.D. Bales. Just get back to the Montana trip. I'm going to try not to look back there at every little slide. I'll just kind of want to get in talk and maybe say okay or something like that, so we can advance them a little bit. It was on July the 5th, the day after July the 4th, that four of the young people from here, and also myself and John Griffin, went out to Hamilton, Montana, to help a small congregation there. Some of the brethren that went on the trip had already left. Most everyone else was driving. We flew because we were the farthest, but there were others that were driving, and some left on the 3rd of July, Sunday afternoon, some left on the 4th, and others actually left closer to the 5th, or closer to the 6th, when it was going to start. But we kind of had a little bit of a thing, because we bought our tickets, and then John Griffin was supposed to buy his tickets, and he didn't buy them. Well, the next day the price went up like $200. So he says, I'm going to wait. So he waited, and the price went up $200 more. Maybe, yeah, it was way up. So finally he just decided, well, I can't get on the same flights as us. So he says, I'm just going to buy another ticket that's halfway reasonable. Well, his flight was going to leave 10 hours before ours, and so he was going to have to sit in the airport in Spokane, Washington for 10 hours and wait on us. And so he didn't have to do that. The day he left, I thought of somebody that I knew out there, and hadn't seen the person for like 40 years. And so I messaged him on Facebook, and I told him the problem, and I said, would you be able to help a brother in Christ? And they said, sure. And so by the time he got out there, I already had it arranged, and he knew somebody's going to pick him up, take him to eat, take him to where we were going to be staying that night. And so John was well taken care of, and so it all worked out. But thanks to brothers and sisters in Christ that are willing to help and, just on the spur of a moment, help one another. So John was helped in that. I'm thankful that we could go. Of course, Mark 16 and 15 tells us to go into all the world, and obviously that doesn't mean we have to go hundreds of miles or thousands of miles to take the gospel, but it was an opportunity that we certainly did have, and we're thankful for that, and thankful to you for your prayers, thankful for the support that was given to the young people to be able to go and travel on this particular trip. It was those that went from here. It was Gift and Maria, and Evelyn, and then Vivian also went. There were 4 of them that were able to go, and it was a good trip for them, I believe. I think they were able to learn some things and some things were able to grow and hopefully mature spiritually and in their experience and getting to know other people as well. Okay. This is where we went. We went to Hamilton, Montana, which is located in southwest Montana. It's actually in a valley. It's the Bitterroot Valley. Maybe some of you have been out there before. It's quite a long, lengthy valley, not real wide, but it's quite long, and it's a beautiful place. The town of Hamilton is about in the middle of it, I would say, from north to south, and it is about a population of 5,000 to 6,000 people. Just a small town out there, a very nice community, seemed to have about everything that someone would want or need. And overall, the people were very friendly and very nice to us. The weather was good while we were there. I know it can probably be, they have their extremes like everyone else, but while we were there, we were enjoying temperatures of lows of in the 50s, maybe 60, and then highs of around 80, 78, 79, 80 degrees. So that was good for us to be able to have a little relief from the heat back here and also be able to, enjoy that as well. This is where, these are some of the things you might see out there, or I won't say might, I say we will, because those are some photos of that. Some of the scenes from Hamilton. And I think you can see, the church building is not there. It's not in that particular one, but there's a lake there. Lake Como. There's all kinds of wildlife, of course, out there and mountains. Just from the church building or the town, you see mountains. And it's a beautiful place, and they love it out there, the people and the brothers and sisters that live out there. Okay. This is our arrival, actually, when we arrived to Montana. I said we flew to Spokane, Washington, and then we drove over to Montana. It wasn't that long of a drive, but it also gave those that were with us an experience to be able to see some other places, see some of the mountains, and just for a short drive to see some of the scenery out there that I realized that they've never seen. So Gift and Vivian and Evelyn and Maria and John are in this particular photo. And you can also see the church building. They have a fairly small church building there, a couple of classrooms, an auditorium, and, not much else. It's just kind of a small building, but it's adequate for them and what they need. On Sunday, the final Sunday that we were there, they actually go down about 2 blocks to a senior citizen center, and that's where they have their meals together. So I guess at this time they're not concerned about, expanding their building or adding any place for them to eat in it. They don't have any doctrinal problem against it. There's nothing of that nature. As I asked him if there was something like that, and he said no. It was just a matter of convenience and, those kind of things. So that's basically, of course, where we were able to meet each day and work out of was the church building there. The next picture, you'll see there's they had taken the flyers that Brad Horton & Horton had made for us to take up there. We had had a flyer. They'd made a flyer. One side was announcing a gospel meeting. The other side was announcing the Vacation Bible School. And they took the flyer, and then they were able to make a banner out of it. And they hung a banner on the front of their building. And they also took the flyer, some of them in advance, and did some door knocking and announcing and inviting to some of the people that were in the area. And so this, the picture. So you can see the people here. This is the preacher and his wife, Victor and Natalia, or Natasha, as he would call her sometimes. They're from the Ukraine. Victor had, I guess they were converted probably in the Ukraine many years ago. I don't know exactly when. But then he decided to go to the Memphis School of Preaching. Some from Memphis, the School of Preaching, had done some work in Ukraine and various other places in Russia. And so he made a decision to come to the School of Preaching in Memphis, and he came over for a while, for the 2 years. Then they went back to the Ukraine. And I'm not sure exactly how, but they came in contact with the congregation here in Hamilton, Montana. And over a period of time, able to get visa and permission and all those kind of things, they were able to move to Montana. And he's been there for 11 years. So they seem to be doing a good work. I think the people there love them very much and seem to care for them. And they seem to be fitting in with all of the people there in the congregation. Obviously, probably not every single one, but they seem to be doing well with the congregation. And they've been there now for about 11 years. So Victor, he seems to be a good worker, a hard worker. He seems to try to fit into the community as best as possible, even though he's from the Ukraine. His wife is a worker. We could tell she did a lot of the organization of the meals and planning and talking to, with the women, the ladies of the sisters of the congregation. So she did a lot of the background work too. I am well aware of. So they're just a good couple there, and they have two sons that are not obviously not in this photo. This is the group of us that came together. I pretty well put the group together. I knew everyone involved in this, so in trying to think of who could go and who would want to go, and various people, brothers and sisters that had interest or knew would be able to travel and those kind of things, I talked to several different ones, and they're in this photo. You're not going to be able to. I'm not going to point to every single one, but there's Josh and Lexi McCloy and their children. They have the three children that are there. They were from Moses Lake, Washington. They drove over. And then Anthony and Shelley from Moses Lake, Washington as well. So there were 7 of those that came over from Washington. Then James Nelson and Brendan Carr. Brendan preaches in Newton, Kansas, and they drove up to Montana. He and James and Brendan drove up together. Then there was Daryl and Bonnie Mahan. Daryl is one of the elders at the Gospel Hill Church of Christ in Pottersville, Missouri, which is not too far from West Plains. And they probably drove the longest or the farthest of anyone. They had quite a drive. But they drove up there and participated in it. And then after, I think they took a little time for vacation. So that was a good thing they could do. Michael and Diane Richardson from Lamoni, Iowa were there. And their 2 grandchildren from Eagleville, Missouri also were there. And then, of course, those from here, Gift and Maria and Vivian and Evelyn and John Griffin. Of course, we claim him as well from Mableville. So it was a very good group that came together. Many of the people did not know one another. Some knew one another, had worked in some way with one another on some campaigns. But by far, people didn't know one another. But yet everyone came together and got to know one another and worked together. And I was just proud of those from Mableville that went, and really about it of everyone that was able to go, all the children in their participation as well. So you could see it was kind of a multi-generational campaign. It wasn't just for young people, it wasn't just for old, but really there were a lot of age groups that were there involved in it. Want to thank Brad for his work and the flyers. I don't know, is that the one that's up right now? Maybe? Is it? Okay. You can see the flyers did a very good job front and back. So when we handed them to people, gave them to people, they could see the gospel meeting that we were having, and they could also see the Bible school as well. Okay? We'd begin... each morning we'd meet at the church building. We at 9 o'clock, and we would have a devotional together. And here's John Griffin giving one of the messages. Each day, a different one of the men would give us a brief message, and then we would sing and have prayer and those kind of things, preparing us for being able to go out and to talk to the people, also preparing for the Bible school as well. And so we enjoyed a time of the devotional time as well. And you can see in the picture, this is just an overall picture of when we were going out one day, and then just John and then in the devotional as well. So that was a good way to start our day. And it also, some of the local brethren from the congregation would come and be involved in it as well and participate as well. Okay? Before we would go out, of course, we would have to prepare our material, and so some of the pictures of some of the children preparing some of the materials, putting some of the flyers and some of the tracts that we took together in order to be able to hand out to people. So it was something that the children could be involved in and young people could be involved in even before we went out, and they enjoyed, of course, time being together. And this is a lower picture, is a lot of the children and teens, I will say, that participated in going out door to door. Some of those are the children that came from Washington, from Missouri, teens from here, and then a couple, I think, that were the local children there in Montana as well. But it was kind of interesting to see all the children get together. They didn't care where they were from. They didn't even know where they were from. They were just children playing together and working together, and, they have no clue how far they live from one another in reality. But they enjoyed being involved in the church and the work of the church and doing those kind of things. So you see Gift is there. We were door knocking, and it was quite common to see deer just walking through town. We'd see them from the church building. They'd be right there by the building, and so we were not on that side of the street at the moment that I took this picture, but we were on one side, and then the deer was crossing there, and so Gift went over there to go talk to the deer. Actually, he was trying to give it a cookie, and at the moment when I took the picture, and she tried, and the deer just kind of looked at her, didn't want the cookie at all. And then so she finally put it down. It didn't take the cookie, as far as I know, and we saw, as we could see. But, she was just having a little bit of fun there while we were door knocking, and, a good experience as well. The next picture, or the next slide, you see the adults were also involved in preparing the tracts and things. It just didn't leave it all up to the children, of course. The adults have to get involved as well, and the young adults, they enjoyed being together, and middle-aged adults working together and preparing things and talking while they're getting all the things together. There's Maria and Gift patiently waiting to go out. They were out in front of the church building, and we were getting ready and getting organized and ready to go out, and they're patiently waiting there. And you see one of those photos is Brother Darrell and Michael looking at the city map. Others are standing around trying to decide where to go. Of course, each day we'd go to a different part of the town. Not a big town, but still trying to do it in some kind of an organized manner of knocking doors and making sure that we had covered some of those things. And so the next one, just going out into the town, and I want to tell just a couple little stories about Maria and Gift. Let's see, if I can remember now. We'll start with Maria. I think I can remember Gifts. But anyway, Maria. Maria had been going. She was with us and going. I think it was Maria. And so, basically I or somebody else, Brendan, had been basically talking to the person when they opened the door. And so, okay, I think it was one of the two, Gift or Maria, I'm not sure. But anyway, I think it was Maria. And so the first thing, he opens the door and she's all ready to say this, and the guy immediately, he looks like this motorcycle guy. He comes to the door and he says, "I don't want any." Just like, didn't even give her a chance to talk. So, well, welcome to door knocking, And so that was one of the experiences. There were many other experiences, lots of good experiences. People were friendly. People would, especially when the young people would talk, people would kindly listen. Not a little less with adults, but, with the young people, they would kind of stand there and smile, and because they knew they were struggling to say something. And they would listen quite a bit. One of the places I remember with Gift was we came up to this one place, and I don't have a picture. I forgot to put the picture in, but there was this yard with no fence, but it had a gate. And so we were like, should we use the gate or not? Because the preacher told us that a lot of those people, they would have these fences and the gates. And you better not go around, you better not go in their yard. They're kind of, don't come in my yard. So we would be very careful and knock on the gate or, analyze the situation. So we're there and there's just this gate, but there's no fence. So I said, we can't go through the gate. So we just walked around their gate and went where there was no fence. And so made that decision. So the guy comes to the door. He's kind of a young guy, and he was not, he listened, but he wasn't real interested. He wasn't real friendly. He told us he wasn't interested. So then as we walked out, to kind of get a little, humor out of him, whatever, kind of loosen him up a little. I said, well, should we go through the gate or not, and he just started kind of laughing. So he understood, it's kind of a weird situation to have a yard with a gate and no fence. But it was there. We would have Bible school, and they tried to get young people. They don't have very many children, so they tried, and they had done some work before to try to get children there. And we encouraged, of course, all of our children that were with us to be there. And at first day, it was mainly just our children, and so I think that's the photo of the first day. And they did have a few more children come, but it was difficult. And so the Bible school didn't quite go the way that we had planned, with everybody being able to participate. But, sometimes those things happen, and it's just you build on, you just keep building upon it. So that was the situation there. But I'm thankful to Josh for, he would be there, and he would lead the children in singing, and then also there were teachers, and everyone was prepared for that particular thing. The next one is we'd have a gospel meeting. And so we had very good attendance on the gospel meeting, good participation from the members themselves. We even had some visitors that were able to be there during the gospel meeting, that is, visitors from the community. And Michael and John were able to actually have a study with one of the visitors one evening right after the worship service. The lady was very sincere and had some questions about the lesson and was asking questions, and so they were able to study with her and help her, and so that was a good thing. The way we did it was we just had a different one of the men speak every night. They selected the topic. The congregation in Hamilton selected the topic, and the topic or the lesson, the theme was fixing your eyes upon Jesus from Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 2, or looking upon Jesus. Different versions word it the different ways. And that was the basic theme, and all of our lessons came from the book of Hebrews. So each one of the men that were present each evening and through Sunday, each one would give a lesson. Most of them were not preachers. Most of them were members serving in different ways, but yet they were willing to give a lesson, and it was all the lessons were biblical, and they were very Bible-based, and that's really what we can ask for, and that was very good. You see, there's John teaching the Sunday morning class there. Victor didn't teach, but he was giving some announcements there, and then there's others. I think there's there's me, Anthony, Daryl, and Brendan in different times when they were preaching as well. Okay? This is also more of the gospel meeting, and Michael is preaching, and let's see who else. Josh is there, and then this picture over here of this young man over here. His name is Byron. He and a group of brethren came. They drove 100 miles from south. The next congregation south of Hamilton, Montana, was in Salmon, Idaho. And they drove 100 miles to come up and to participate in the gospel meeting. And Byron, he was leading us a couple of songs here. And it was just so great to be able to have their participation, to have them to come and to support the congregation in Hamilton, to get to know quite a few brethren from Salmon, Idaho as well. Seemed like a real good congregation, and you know, they had some connections with. They were going to have one of the Wayne Jackson's son as a preach the gospel meeting. I think maybe this week or next week. From California, and you know, they just seem to have it be a very sound group of brethren. Okay, this is a picture, just in kind of concluding up, a picture of all of us plus the families that hosted. Some of the families, some of their families hosted. The families from Washington, they hosted a gift, and Maria. And Vivian and Evelyn and maybe some others in their homes during the week while we were there. And so we got a picture with all of them. York and Holly is one of the couples that is there. Dave and Ariel, Howard and Peggy, and Jim and Eddie. They're all good families and brethren that were able to open their homes up to host while we were there. And they provided many times our supper meals, so we didn't have to worry about those kind of things as well. Okay? These are just some final photos of some of our young people that went with different ones, some with their host families, some of them with others from that were just, you know, on the trip itself. But I hope that it was a good experience for them all. I think it probably was. And again, we want to thank you for your support and prayers and everything that you did to make the trip possible for them. And also, you know, it was a great encouragement to them individually. You can't go on a trip like that without growing and getting a different kind of a perspective of things. But also, it was a great encouragement to the brethren in Montana. The preacher and his wife sent me a message this week. I think it was like Friday, and they said that was the highlight of our year. Well, obviously the year's not over. They might have a better highlight. Who knows? But to this point, they feel so encouraged. And he said they're still seeing the effects of when we were able to be there. So, you know, thanks to each one for that. And obviously, we go into all the world, whether it be next door or whether it be somewhere else, because that's what God wants us to do. That's what Jesus wants us to do. And Paul asked the question in Romans chapter 10 and verse 14, well, how shall they hear? Or how shall they believe unless they hear? And so that's really where the state of the world is in. How will the world believe if the world cannot hear? So that's our responsibility as individual Christians, is to help the world come to know the gospel. Maybe this evening there's someone here that realizes they need to obey the gospel, need to respond to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And if you need to be baptized this evening for the remission of your sins, being added to the church, then tonight is the night to be able to do that. And you can do that. You can respond while we stand and sing.